How many hours do you have on Terraria? A simple question, but an important one. This number not only defines how dedicated you are to this one game, but it also defines how little you go outside. Like seriously, this is a problem. Please go outside. But with all these hours came many stages, some good, some bad, and I want to discuss these today. Welcome to the 6 stages of a Terraria player. Now keep in mind that I came up with these myself and they're simply based on what I, my friends, and a couple YouTubers went through, but regardless, enjoy. The first stage of Terraria you will most likely experience is ignorance. Not everyone will experience this phase, especially if you've already watched videos on the game, but this one's pretty self-explanatory. You don't really know what you're doing, and you most likely don't even know why you're playing this game. Many people quit during this phase, and I don't blame them for that. Terraria is a very complicated game, and not everyone has time for that these days. And who really cares? All you did was spend $10 on it. Of course, most people persevere through this phase. Some make it to building their first house, or maybe even fighting their first boss. This part of the journey is definitely the hardest though. You get thrown into this massive world with practically endless content, and it can be overwhelming for some people, especially if you don't have any idea what to do. Sometimes not knowing what to do can be more fun than knowing what to do though, and that's where we make it to our second phase. Being a beginner in Terraria is definitely an experience. You now have a slight idea of how the game works simply from playing, but you're still very much learning. You also probably don't spend too much time on each session of this game, maybe 1 or 2 hours each, which is kinda counterintuitive because to learn the game you kinda have to play it, but moving on. At this point you've probably made a couple of shoeboxes and died more times than you'd like to admit. If you utilize the guide, getting through this phase probably wasn't too bad for you. I bet you also use tables instead of workbenches for your NPC housing because they cost less wood, and then you were thinking about how smart you are compared to everyone else. Disgusting. At this point you've definitely beat a couple bosses and now are wondering why you didn't get this game sooner. You're also probably regretting conserving your shurikens and throwing knives, thinking they'll be more useful in the future. Rookie mistake. Nearing the end of this phase, your sessions are probably becoming longer, more like 2 to 4 hours. You've probably also started getting Terraria videos recommended in your social media feed. Once you get between 50 to 100 hours, you've probably completed your first playthrough. Keep in mind I basically skipped the mid game because it's pretty much just constant development. Your world definitely wasn't the prettiest, and you saw a lot of death screens, but it feels nice knowing that you finally finished the game. You might even feel good at it. Don't worry, this is natural. At this point, you're probably getting quite a few Terraria videos in your feed, and even after completing the game, you're seeing all of this other content. Expert mode, secret seeds, master mode, if you start in 1.4 that is. You might have also taken a small break from the game as well, thinking that there can't be that much left to do. But after seeing a couple of these videos, you decided to make an expert mode world. You've already beaten the game once, so this can't be that much harder, right? Right? Not everyone has experienced this phase, but for many people, you were not expecting anything close to this. Although currently, expert mode might be your base difficulty, your first playthrough of expert mode is very rarely easy. You might not struggle immensely with the early game, only having a few more deaths than usual, and maybe taking a little longer to do simple things because of the enemy buffs. After exploring caves and powering up, you think you might have a good grasp on this whole difficulty thing. Then the bosses happen. This is definitely one of the more rage-inducing stages of Terraria, and you might even rage quit the world on your first playthrough like I did. After feeling like you might have just figured this game out, the developers basically said screw you. And if you haven't already, you might have convinced a couple friends to play with you in hopes of it easing the difficulty. This stage of the game is definitely a pain, but it's also where you really start to develop a love for this game. It might be a toxic relationship, but there's still love there nonetheless. After beating the game twice, you've definitely refined your skills in this game. Normal mode feels like a joke now. You might have also tried and or beat master mode, but the only difference between this and expert mode is small tweaks, so it's not really worth mentioning. At this point you might have done certain challenges for the game, such as custom seeds or specific class playthroughs, but you're starting to get kinda bored of the base game and have either started looking into mods or have already been playing them for a while. If you made it to this stage before the official T-Mod loader game, you might have not had this and just stopped playing for a while. Nevertheless, if you did start playing mods, your first experience was probably Calamity or Thorium, neither being a bad choice. Personally, mine was Thorium, but I quickly switched to Calamity. This is when you start feeling like an above average Terraria player, which is very much earned. You are definitely in the 20%. You don't really have as much challenge playing Terraria, and you mostly just play it for fun now. It's also possible that you spend just as much time watching Terraria videos as you do playing. This game is no doubt in your top 10 list, maybe even top 5. There's not really much else to say about this phase, you're just going with the flow right now. For the last phase, there will actually be 2 paths. This is the first one. You probably already beat the major mods and every difficulty in the base game. You've explored most of the popular servers and most likely watched more content on the game than actually playing it. You might even be inspired to become a content creator. You're not bored of the game per se, but you're more into the idea of Terraria as a whole than just the game itself. You might have these 2 or 3 week periods where you play the game constantly and then slow down for another 6 months, but you definitely don't play nearly as much or nearly as consistently as you used to. And for the last phase, congratulations, you have made it to the 1% of no-lifers. You made it through all of the previous stages and still have not gotten bored of the game yet. Very few people can say they've accomplished what you have. It's possible you're also a legit content creator for the game now, either making gaming videos or videos like the one you're watching right now. If so, once again, congratulations. You most likely own multiple copies of this game for different devices and definitely have stocked up on the merch. You've probably also completed 95% of the achievements besides maybe Supreme Helper Minion. There's not too much else to say about this phase. Good job. And also, thanks for watching.